What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Ooh, gutsy is courage. There's just not enough people with courage. Gutsy is courage. And thank you, Laura, for having a podcast and giving gutsy people the platform because I really think it takes guts to lead.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm LauraAura, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. Do you ever sit and think, gosh, I feel like I've done everything right. I followed all the rules, I climbed the ladder, I checked all the boxes, but now you're sitting here looking around, wondering, where is the freedom in all of this? Where is the happiness that I was promised? Where is the fulfillment that I thought would be at the end of all of this? Where am I? Today, I'm talking with Leslie Marant, a transformational leadership expert who speaks directly to the woman who's ready to lead, but isn't sure if she's allowed to. We talk about taking up space, redefining what power really truly means, and leading with clarity and courage, even in systems that weren't designed for your voice. This is a powerful, grounded conversation about unlearning the old rules, reconnecting with your values, and reclaiming the space at the table on your terms this time. Not only is Leslie a transformational leadership expert, she's also an attorney and the CEO of the ESP Effect. She equips leaders and organizations to embed equity into strategy, lead with courage, and create workplaces where people and goals thrive. A former Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the Philadelphia Police Department, Leslie brings an honest, experienced voice to conversations about power and systems change. After leaving a decades-long public sector career to launch her business at nearly 60, she now speaks nationally and advises executives on leading with conviction and resilience. I also encourage you to listen the whole way through this episode because there's an important conversation about the unique challenges that women of color face in leadership and what you can do as an ally to help change this narrative. Leslie is truly one of the most memorable guests I've ever had on the Gutsy Podcast. You are in for an absolute treat, so let's get into it. My friend Leslie, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Good morning, Laura. How are you?
I am so excited to be in your energy and in this space. You bring fire, you bring truth, and that's what this show is all about. So I'm happy to have you with us.
Thank you. I was at an event last week and they, on the name tag, it said, "What's your superpower?" And I was like, truth telling.
Yep.
My superpower.
And that's where we're going today. So we're talking about women in leadership. We're talking about taking up space. We're going to talk about women of color and taking up space unapologetically and how to do that. Let's start here maybe a little earlier in the beginning. You've made some pretty big gutsy moves of your own. I mean, you went down the path, you built an incredibly successful career, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but around age 60, you made a big move and left the world and started your own gig. Am I right to say that?
Not quite 60, but yeah, and so let's be honest, if we're going to do it, made a move is a wonderfully gracious way to put it. Forced to make a move is a different way to put it.
Well, then
that's the reality.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've had a stellar career, nothing but great experiences. I'm an attorney by training. I was the chief counsel for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, which is the anti-discrimination agency here in Pennsylvania. I'm a certified diversity, equity, and inclusion executive. And I became the inaugural chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the Philadelphia Police Department. So I walked into a highly resistant organization, an organization that was resistant to the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then just entrenched with everything that comes with policing and law enforcement, right? Very male dominated, there's a history, of the demographics and the religions and folks who dominate law enforcement spaces. So I walk in, not a cop, into the executive team of this organization, and they're like, what's a non-cop doing up here? And she's doing what? So that was very interesting. And, I'll just say it, that experience did not part ways voluntarily. And I said, okay, so here I'm at 57 years old, unemployed, involuntary, I will say unjustly terminated. And then I said, you know what? I've been on three C-suites. Um, and it's time for me to write my own tune, sing my own song, and partner with organizations. That way, quite frankly, if if the relationship is, if there's resistance, I'm on a contract basis, I'm on an agreement, I'm an advisor to you. You don't want my advice, you don't want, it's hard for you to accept the way I, as an almost 6 foot tall, no hair, very dark black, and all of that matters, right? And it might not matter to some people, but I know the way that I move in my body, I'm very assertive. I'm very confident. I'm tall. I'm dark. All of that matters. So I hear all of the coded language, the intimidating, the all of that stuff, right? And I need to move in places and spaces that are only welcoming with that, that are not insecure about that are not resistant to that do not actively oppose that, and can listen to the experience and the expertise and the advice that I bring. And so I decided to create my own consulting company to help organizations address their environmental, cultural, legal, reputational risk, to do process improvement. But I find, for me, as a Black woman executive, it's much better for me to do that as a partner, as a consultant, as a strategic advisor, instead of an employee.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second,
Yeah,
because a lot of strong, powerful, smart women often hear, you're intimidating, you're not approachable, I don't know what to do around you. And then what do? We like shrink to fit the room. We pull ourselves back.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, tell me the
I
secret sauce then, because I think a lot of people
Well, the
struggle
secret
with
sauce is
this.
you can find yourself involuntarily separated. Right?
I mean, that'll fuel your gutsy,
No,
that's for
no, those are
sure.
the consequences of not,
Mm.
those are the possible consequences. It's not the only consequence. Some assertive women do very well in their employment spaces. This is not in this, what I'm saying is my experience. It's also the experience of possibly 350,000 Black women who have found themselves unemployed since a new presidential administration has come into place. But it's not just Black women, it's not just women of color, women who move very confidently, who are assertive. We are not used to seeing women taking direction from women, taking leadership, no matter how educated we are, no matter how much experience we bring. We look at women in a certain way. And what I ask people often out loud is, if I were a man, a white man in particular, speaking this way, giving you the same opinion, making the same comment, would you call it aggressive? Would you call it assertive? I have worked for wonderful people, men and women. I've worked for wonderful white men, wonderful Black men, wonderful Black. I've worked for lots of people, right? And there are ways that men move in organizational spaces. I mean, we've seen the crotchety guy. We've seen the guy who cusses a lot, right? We've seen the guy who just talks any old kind of way to anybody. No one ever, I've never seen those men's coattail people and say, you got to talk to the people a little differently. Can you tone that down? That's a little aggressive. They just are allowed to be. And we do not say they're not good leaders. We don't say they're not effective. We don't push them out. They just have the freedom to move. And when women come into those spaces and places, you have options. You can shrink, you can make people more comfortable, you can tone it down. But if you stand in your authority of the position that you hold, if you speak in the same way, with the same words, in the same tone that men use, it's not going to be received the same way. It's just not. And often it's going to be held against you. And I rebuke that in the name of all that is corporate.
I just love you. I just love you. And I think that that probably poses the question, when you're like, everything's stacked against. You can say the same thing, it might be used against you. It might be seen a certain way. You might have a label put on you. What do you recommend? How do you work with women in that space to push back? Because it's easier emotionally sometimes just to not.
It is.
But the
It is.
long-term effect,
It
it
is.
it it ruins you, right?
So
It,
we
it
have
just drains you.
choices. We have choices, right? As women, we have choices. Do you, for lack of a better term, do you play the game? Do you shrink? Do you soften it? And that works for some women. It really does. It's fine. They're like, you know what? Listen, and you talk to some of those women. They're no less smart. They're no less intelligent. For them, that's their strategic. For some of them, it is a very strategic choice. It's a listen, the fellas can't handle this. It's not just the fellas, right? People don't like women who lead a certain way. And so, in order to be effective, in order to cause less dissension, in order to get the results that I want, I'm going to make the strategic decision to adjust, to modify, to soften, to tone. I do say, though, if you are moving in your authentic self, what's the cost to you? What's the cost to you mentally? What's the cost to you physically, emotionally? Um, what's the cost to your health? um, do you resent that? What do you do with that resentment? Where does that resentment go? Right? Because I've heard those women talk to me and say, you know what? This is BS. So and so, it happens. It happens when we have lunch together. It happens before work. It happens after work. It happens when we do the soft knock on each other's door and say, can I come in for a second? I just need to vent, right? We've all
Yeah.
had those moments where you go in and then you vent. And we do this is BS, right? And then we go back out and we play the game. And many people have to play the game in different ways. But what's the long term effects? Does it ruin you? Maybe not. Some people have very successful careers, constantly shrinking, or even, and when I say shrink, I don't mean shrink down to nothing. I mean, you're asked to tone it down, and so you tone it down, and it works for you. Maybe you get the promotion, maybe you get the position. But I also know women who adamantly oppose that. And it's not the end of their career, but there is a label that's given to them as well. There's behind their back, she's a B. I don't want to work for her. Um, if she does not shrink, the challenges, the open and overt challenges to her authority in ways that people do not openly and overtly challenge male executives, male leaders. And so there's a cost to that. There's no free, there's a cost either way. There's a cost if you stand in it. There's a cost if you shrink. There's a cost to us. I prefer to be me, and deal with the consequences of that. Because what I know about my leadership is that more than anything, it's fair.
Hmm.
More than anything, it's fair. More than anything, it's equitable, it's approachable. If you're afraid to approach, I mean, that's between you and your therapist. But when I say no, 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 because I'm the sort of leader that says you are welcome. Too often leaders surround themselves with yes people, and we often find those organizations are the worst organizations with the worst culture because we have a person or a team at the top who get thrilled off of the power in the position. They cannot be challenged. Good leaders surround themselves with capable people who are willing to say, hey, boss, listen, I see your mission, I see your vision, but I think you're going off track here. I think this is the wrong thing. And you know that you've got a good leadership when your people are free to do that without fear of consequence, without fear of being disciplined or excluded out in one way or the other, right? And so what I know about my leadership is you can absolutely say, I think you're making a mistake here. I think you're wrong here. I think you're this, that. It doesn't threaten my leadership. But so if I move assertively, if I move confidently, it's because it's well-earned confidence. No one gave me anything. One thing for certain and two things for sure. No one's bending over backwards to give Black women the opportunity to just be at the head of organizations for free. You've earned your way up there.
Yeah.
So if it bothers you that I'm confident, I didn't. There's no affirmative action in my leadership. My leadership is here because of skill and capability. And I'm okay with that. But are the people who I work with as colleagues or subordinates, are you okay with it? Is the question. I think I went way off of your whatever you asked me. I
I
haven't.
love it. No, this whatever was supposed to come up and out is exactly what just happened, because
Yeah,
that's what we need to hear. And I think it's that moment of hesitation that
yeah,
I want to dig into, because there are often, sometimes many, or if not dozens of times a week, where we're put in situations, or we're in rooms, or we're in conversations where we feel something, right? You feel that idea, you feel that nudge, you feel that thing that you want to say or do, but that hesitation moment pops up, and it's
yeah,
like, am I allowed to lead in this position? Am I allowed to speak up? And what is
yeah.
worth speaking up and leading for?
So I think for women, if I were to, if you were to phrase that as an advice to women question, I think that we really do have to say, what's it cost me? What's my ultimate goal in this position and or in this moment, right? Is this moment worth the fight? Because quite frankly, every
Mm,
moment isn't worth the fight, right?
yeah, yeah,
Right? Does it cost me much? Does it cost the mission? What's my ultimate goal in this moment, in this meeting, with this decision? My ultimate goal with this decision is I need to move this thing forward. If I got to compromise a little bit to move something forward, that's reasonable, right? But if at the heart, if it's that thing that's gnawing you, right? And
yeah,
it doesn't sit well with your gut, you have to decide, are you going to let it eat you up, or are you going to find a way to voice what you need to voice, right? And particularly in leadership, I'm a leader, right? So my leadership should be respected, but what do we do when it's not? What do we do? You say, listen, I'm making the decisions. You can go along or get along. It's up to you, you know? I'm a leader. I require you to respect my leader. You don't have to like me. I don't come to work to be liked. If you like me, that's an added benefit. I don't come to be to work to be disliked either. I don't. I
sure,
come to work to make sure that I'm an effective leader. What is my organization departmental goal? What's my job as a leader? What am I responsible for? I'm responsible for metrics, KPIs, outcomes. But what I know as a leader, I don't get any of those things. I don't get profit. I don't get productivity. I don't get mission. I don't get goals accomplished without my people. It doesn't happen without my people. So I center people in my leadership. I center fairness, equity, team building to the extent possible, democratic processes, understanding that democracy in organizations have limits and have boundaries, because ultimately the buck stops with me and starts with me. I'll never throw my people under the bus. If there's an error in my organization, in my department, in my unit, you don't go to my people, you start with me. I own the error. I own the success. I own the mistakes. So if we fail, we fail. I'm gonna take the failure. I'm gonna turn to my team. What the hell happened, y'all? But I'm never gonna throw you. And I'm like, yo, hey, I'm a good leader. Y'all leave. Don't leave me out there like that. But I'm never going to throw my folks under the bus, right? So sometimes the democracy stops because I'm the person who takes the hit. I protect my folks. I'm always going to do that. But that also means that I require, because I know the kind of leader that I am, I require a certain level of performance. I require, and the way that I speak, because of my life experience, is very direct. We're not used to directness from women.
yeah,
We're just not, right? But I feel like for me, it's too hard. My life experience was too, my positions, I earned these stripes. I earn them. And for me, my personal decision is I'm standing exactly in who I am. There's some compromise in me. There absolutely is, but I'm not shrinking. I'm just not. And if I am only willing to work with people and with organizations who can handle that.
yeah.
Only willing to do that.
Well, and I think that comes back to your story of, what is the cost? What is the consequence? Well, there's the situation where things went sideways,
Yeah.
but you continued to show up as yourself,
Yep.
and you didn't compromise. And now look what that has led you to.
Yep.
to
And
running
that
your
led to me being an entrepreneur at 57 years old and loving it because now I get to lead. I'm untethered. I get to come in and say, listen, you know, to work with organizations and say the things that consultants can say, but employees can't.
yeah.
That's a better space for me. It
Yes.
is. It's a much better space. I wish I'd known it like 20 years. I do. I do. It's a better space for me because a consultant doesn't have the, or a strategic advisor or strategic partner. My clients' needs come first, right? Their outcomes comes first. But I don't have to worry about the shrinking in the way that an employee does. Even a senior vice president, even a chief, even a what, you still report to somebody, you still have colleagues, right? But I can work alongside with you and I can pull your coattails as a consultant much better than I can pull your coattails as my boss.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a separation that creates so much creativity and availability,
Right.
and the politics are gone, and the being in the trenches is gone. You know, you're just all that political, businessy, how, who, what, when, where, wow. You're separated from that, and honestly, from a consultant standpoint, they're hiring you to tell you the truth, to
Absolutely.
tell them the truth. They want to
Absolutely.
know the truth. They want to know what
Absolutely.
they don't
Well,
know.
not all of them.
Well, okay.
But here's the thing.
But
Here's the question. Here's the thing, Laura. So I made that decision and it works for me. You know what I mean? I mean, like half the population is women. We can't all be consultants, right?
yeah,
So that means that back at the ranch, back at our places of employment, they have to adjust. We're asking women to adjust to societal norms of male leadership. When the organizations, women have been working in nonprofits, corporations, engineering, bank. We've been here for 70 years or so at least, right?
absolutely.
When are y'all gonna get it together? When I mean, what y'all? We're not. We. I mean, when we entered into the workforce, we entered into the lower rungs of organizations, right? And so it was really easy to have. Do you remember the show Mrs. Sue Wiggins? I really may be aging myself right now, where she was the secretary on like one of the comedy shows. Mrs. Sue Wiggins. She was a secretary. She wore a tight skirt and she bought the pay. Like our Mrs. Sue Wiggins days are over. Like we're
Yeah.
here, fully educated, capable. We've been in the workforce for decades. Are we going to continue to ask women to shrink forever? When do we turn the mirror on the organizations and say 50% of our workforce are women? When do we tell? When do we teach? When do we change the culture of the organizations to recognize, accept the leadership of women
Yeah.
without the name calling, without the resentment, without the overt or underhanded undermining, without the credit stealing, without the we're all in the same meeting. The woman says A, no one recognizes it. People talk over. 5 minutes later, Bill says B, and everyone thinks this is amazing. Meanwhile, Laura's sitting there ready to head explode. Like I just said
Did
that.
I didn't I just say that?
I literally just said that. How is this a wonderful thing from on high? It's like Jesus came out of heaven and said, and I just said that, right? Right. And so there's so many stories like that for women. When do we say, as a society, as organizations, that we have to understand how to be led by women?
Yeah. The question pops up that I'm certain that someone listening is asking right now. How do we make that? I mean, it is the $1 million question that's not yet been answered. So I don't know that we're going to solve it here today, but how do we push back in, especially in organizations that don't accept it, that are not evolving, that are still those boardrooms where, you know, Mike took the credit for the idea that Leslie just presented. You know, how do we make that change in organizations that are change resistant?
So maybe prior to January 20th, we at least had lip service.
Yeah.
To, of course we do, right? So I think it's time to really begin challenging the organizations, right? And so, I'm in the DEI space, right? And so they say, okay, come on in and do some culture changing, and make some curriculum and make some classes and train our staff, and it'll be better for everybody. And what I've learned over time is I said, that's wonderful. I'm really happy for the opportunity to do that, but I need to start in this room.
Mm.
I need to start with leadership. Culture change, culture. I believe that I'm really big on nothing for me without me. I'm really big on leadership, recognizing the bottom of the organization and always including them. I do think culture is one of the things that starts at the top, you know?
Yeah.
And so don't bring people into organizations to make classes and curriculum and all that other stuff. You Organizations who say, the ones that are resistant, just when ladies avoid them. I don't know what else to say. But
Put in your notice and move
listen,
on.
listen, just that place is, I mean, I came from an organization. I came from law. The last organization I was employed with was a law enforcement, the fourth largest law enforcement agency in the country, right? And so as a black woman, and I was appointed as a DEI executive, I'm expecting, I'm the card carrying member of the ACLU. What am I doing going into a police department? Oh my God. Right. So I'm expecting, I'm like, okay, there's gonna be all this racism and such and such. I'm gonna have to deal with that. And it was there, right? I will say I was more flabbergasted at the overt sexism that I saw, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, the feeling, the positioning of women, how women were held, perceived, the limits to their employment opportunities. Because law enforcement is hard. Let's just, it's a 24-hour job. That's not conducive for, the majority of women. I forget what the numbers are now, but women tend to marry, they tend to partner, they tend to give childbirth. Not all, absolutely, but it's more than 50%, right? And so when you have a job that is 24 out, 24/7, so then how do I parent as a cop? How do I promote? How do I, do I just like become a cop, and do I shoot for the desk jobs that pretty much give me a 9 to 5 schedule, right? So you see women patrol officers, you see women, what they call corporals in Philadelphia, because those corporal positions are desk jobs. They're more manageable positions, right? But to go higher up in the organization, you've got to subject yourself to the scheduling and all. And so you see, as you get higher in the ranks in the organization, you see women not there. You don't see a lot of women. There was patrol officer, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, inspector, chief inspector, deputy. Captain and below, captain, few women, very few women. Above captain, very, very few, because of the demand, because we have not figured out. It's not an impossible thing to do, right? So to answer your question, we go back and we start at the top. For the organizations that say they're committed to this, that we say that we value women, then we start at the top of those organizations, and it is hard work, because that means that the men, and maybe the one woman or two women at the top of the organization, have to address their own biases and practices, right?
Mm.
Before I can come in and change culture and practice and policy, in order for that to be done, I've got to have the buy-in from the top of the organization, because the top of the organization is going to hold everybody else accountable for accepting the new things and the new ways we incorporate people with differences, women, black, LGBTQ, right? You can do all the training in the world, but if nobody's going to hold people accountable for the new culture, for the new way, sometimes it's okay. um I'm gonna go back to my old job. Police they gotta wear a lot of stuff. Like, you think they just got a gun? They got a lot of stuff that they have. There's a gun. There's like a taser. There's a baton. There's a lot. So if a woman has a 28-inch waist, right? It's heavy on her, like, so, the equipment, all that they have, and it's on your waist. it's heavy. But it's not just women. There are small men too, right? It's heavy, it's bulky. What's an answer? There's vests that you can put different stuff in order to, and so it's easier on the bodies of smaller people, not just women, right? But you got to get the buy-in from the top of the organization to see that as a value. And if you only see it as a value, you're a regular sized dude with a 36, 38-inch waist, 40, 42. Now you kind of thick to be copping, but whatever. But if you're right, if you don't think about those things, right? And everybody on your team never thought about those things, and you rise to the top and you're the executives of the organization, and someone like me comes in and says, one of the things that you need to do with women is instead of everything being on the waist, put it in the vest. They're still carrying everything. But if you resist that, right, and you're the executives, how committed are you to it, right? And that's just a small thing. That's just equipment on your waist, wearing it on your vest versus wearing it on your waist, right? Now imagine trying to now implement maternity leave, flexible scheduling, job sharing. It has to start. I can do all the curriculum training. I can do all the training. And if the people at the top are not truly on board, and it takes a lot to get them on board, because you got to show them the mirrors. You got to show them the things that they don't think about. You got to show them the ways that they dismiss things that are not relevant to them, right?
Yeah.
And then they got to buy in. Because otherwise, bringing in a DEI officer or a culture change person doesn't matter, because I can make policy. Where does a nursing cop? I'm on an 8-hour shift. I do not have lunch. I work for myself. When I worked in an office, I worked from 9 to 5. I took lunch at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I went for an hour. I had lunch. I'm a cop. I'm on the street. Whatever happened, somebody shot, stabbed, kid missing, all kind of stuff. There is no lunch hour. I just came back from maternity leave 6 months ago. I'm nursing. Where am I nursing?
Yeah.
Where am I nursing? Where am I pumping? Where am I pumping? Not in the bathroom of the precinct. That's nasty. It's disgusting, right? Right. So now for every district in the city, now think about it. How do we incorporate women into these spaces? If I don't have buy-in to say to them, you have women, you've got more than 50% of your employees, 50% of your employees are women, they're likely to have a baby. You got to have somewhere, some way for them to, when they come back, you want to keep them on, right? You think they're good employees. You want to retain them. They tend to give birth. And so how do we make it such that there's a safe and clean space for them to pump so they can go home and take care of their kids, right? But if you're a man and you're dismissive of that, or if you're a woman who was one of the first cops and you figured it out somehow, come hell or high water, your heart can be hard. I did it, you did it. So it's not just the men who need the greater understanding, some of the women too, right? Yeah. And so the answer, the long-winded answer to that, the short answer to that is you have to start at the top. You have to start at the top. Otherwise, the culture change never happens, does it?
If this conversation is stirring something in you, you know you're meant to lead differently, you know that you're ready to go to that next level of your business or career, but maybe you haven't had the space, the support, or the strategy to do it, then AuraLine is your next move. This is an intimate 6-month mastermind designed for women who are ready to stop circling around their potential and are saying, you know something, I'm ready. I'm ready to do the thing. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to fully step into it. I'm going to get all up in your business in the best of ways as we untangle the old patterns and overthinking that have talked you out of this great idea. We will simplify the shit out of the stuff that feels overwhelming. And we're going to create a clear, simple plan so you know where to focus your time and your energy next. If you've been feeling like, you know something, I think it's time, then take this as your sign that it is. Learn more and sign up for AuraLine at LauraAura.com/mastermind. how do women and honestly just people in organizations help to influence that? How do we make this a priority? How do we implement change when sometimes there is resistance to that change? Because I feel like a lot of people agree and want this, but don't know how to do it. Like I'm one person. How do I
I'm gonna
impact this
push back just
change?
a little bit. I'm not sure that
Do
everybody agrees and wants it, quite frankly.
well.
We
Okay,
really like
fair.
the status quo. We
Yeah.
really, really do, right? And progress, historically, in this country, progress only happens. We don't welcome progress. When progress comes in this country, and then our organizations are only microcosms, small microcosms of the larger society, progress comes and there's always backlash. Progress comes, there's always pushback, right? Progress is slow, it's incremental.
Yeah.
It's agonizingly slow, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes, there's always an attempt to suppress the progress, right? So one, I question whether we really want the progress. Do we really want women to lead? Do we really want, or do we do it begrudgingly? Do we do it because we have to? Do we do it because of protests? Do we do it for diversity's sake only? Right?
Right.
But for those, you got to find the people, and they exist everywhere. The people who do have an ear for it, and then you've got to equip them. You know what? So I'm going to teach you how to sit with the discomfort of your bias, right, against women. I mean, Leslie, I don't have bias against women. I love women. I got a wife. I got beautiful daughters. Da, 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 da. Right, right. And if your wife was your colleague, your executive level colleague, what would you think? How would you treat her? It's not the same as loving your wife and loving your daughters, right? I brought your daughter into this organization. Is your mindset that she only gets to excel to a certain level
Mm.
because you are here, but do you really see, do you have the ability to see your daughters and or your wife as your colleague, right, with the same level of power, prestige, pay as you? Or do you think they can only excel to a certain point? Let's be honest. I know you love them, right? But would you really welcome them to have the same? How about this? How would you feel if they got promoted to your position and you didn't?
Mm.
Right? So we have to have those tough conversations, right? But there are people, no matter what dominant, whether it's gender, race, religion, whatever, there are people who are willing to attempt to be fair. You got to work with them, and then you've got to equip them to be a little bolder. You got to equip the guys who may actually be willing to say, you know what? You saw somebody, you saw him steal her credit, right? So I want you, the next time you see that happens, just say, well, that's just what Laura just said 5 minutes ago. That doesn't
Mm.
cost you that much, right? Doesn't cost you that much. And so we begin equipping people about how to intervene, right? How to intervene individually, but then how to intervene systemically and systematically, right?
Yeah.
And it so oh my God, Leslie, that's gonna take forever. Show enough.
Well, we're still
Show
we're st-
enough.
we're still here.
Show enough. It's gonna take a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. What about in those moments when we're talking specifically to women here, when they feel, again, kind of back to that hesitation moment, when they want to say something, they want to equip a coworker, they want to present an idea, and that hesitation pops up. What beliefs and or habits do they need to let go of in those moments so they can get over that hump and actually help implement change? Because we have to call out that if we don't speak up, if we don't act, if we don't take action, if we don't make movements, we are unintentionally enabling a system that's against us.
Absolutely.
So, but there's always kind of this, not always, there's often this hesitation moment where we bump right up against something. What do we got to let go of in those moments so that we can implement those changes?
What you're talking about is fear, and
Yeah.
what we need is courage. What we need is more courage. But there are some practical things that we can do. I got this meeting coming up. I know I need to say X. Why? And so we do have to do the extra work until we don't, right?
Yes.
That's just the bottom line. We've
Yes.
got to take the extra steps until we create environments where we don't have to take the extra steps. So you sit down and you say, why is it important for me to speak here? I'm not just trying to get credit from, I mean, some people, we all have those people in the organization where you're like, just shut up, right? Because this is not relevant in this moment. It's not,
Yeah.
you're just trying to like brown nose or get brownie points or whatever. But if I'm really here at what's the value of the thing that I need to say? Is it really important? Then if it's important, it's not about you. It's not about your gender. It's about the value of the thing that I am bringing to the table. It's important and it must be heard, right? And so you know that. But we need to do some pre work. If you feel that hesitancy, if you found yourself shrinking and that's not what you want to do, this is a form of executive coaching or just coaching in general. So I do executive coaching as well. I would say to the person who's not comfortable in that space, you're going to do some pre-meeting prep, right? You're going to do pre-meeting prep. Why is it important? What do you say? You lead with the intended outcome. It's important for this to be heard because the outcome is X, Y, and Z, right? And so it's not about me as a woman anymore. It's about the organization or the department or whatever the issue is in the moment. The reason that I'm speaking is to directly address that. And so you have to begin preparing. Preparation is a plan, right? That little gut thing, that fear, that wanting to shrink, it's always going to be there. The only way you combat it is to face it and to practice time after time after time. And I'm a living witness to after a while, you don't care. The little gut thing, it goes away. It doesn't even exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
But let's not act like I'm almost 60 years old. It took some time to be able to become this person, right? I
Yeah.
was scared too. I shrunk too. I don't sit here on this call with you and pretend that I've never shrunk and pretend that I've never silenced my voice because of what I thought other people were going to say, right? But at the end of the day, if what I have to say or what I have to present is important to my people, to our outcomes, I start with that. Then it becomes less my ego, some of that fear is attached to our ego, right? I don't want to say it. I don't want to look bad. I don't, no. This is important to my people. This is important to my team. This is important to the organization. Once I'm now, because I'm like a social justice warrior. So once I'm advocating for my team or my team's performance, it's no longer about me. I'm speaking because of the goal, not because of me. And the more I speak because of the issue, then my ego drops. But you got to practice that, right? So I tell women, or anybody, if I'm coaching them, I'm like, I have a client right now who is in an operations manager in a large legal department. She's like, I'm not a lawyer and the lawyers don't listen to me. I'm like, girl, lawyers are all A-type personalities. Too many of us are a-holes. And so I know you feel like you can't tell them, you feel like you can't tell them X because you're not a lawyer or your experience is not theirs, right? But what are they missing? Why do you want to say something? She's like, because we are inefficient, we lose money, such and such and such. I said, then it's not about you not being a lawyer. You start the meeting, you start at your turn to speak, you bring it up because if we do X, Y, and Z, if we continue down this path, we're losing money. It's inefficient and it's wasting time. I'm proposing we do this. It'll save us 25% and it'll save us X amount of dollars. She's like, yeah, that is really what's going to happen. I said, but you're afraid to say that because you're not a lawyer. So same things happen with us as women, right? But once you focus on what's your job is the operations manager to do process improvement, to save money. So you walk in there with that. But before you do it, because I know you're scared right now, you got to practice. So let's role play this thing. You do it once, it's scary. You do it again, you do it again. By the fifth time, you're not worried about being in a room full of lawyers. Same thing for women. You're not worried about I'm in here with men because you put the issue or the goal in front of you and then you do the thing.
That's brilliant. I hope everyone heard that loud and clear. Go back, rewind, listen to that 8,000 times if you need to, because it takes you out of the center spotlight and instead puts the goal or the focus or the challenge in the spotlight instead. And that's
Yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
what we're going for.
Because then if they reject it, You're rejecting the solution. You're not
Mm.
rejecting me.
Oh, yeah.
You're rejecting the solution. Now, if you want to continue to reject the solution because it came from a woman, that's on you. You want to reject the solution because it came from a non-attorney? All right. But I document too, so when it all falls apart, pursuant to our meeting on, I said,
See previous email.
that's it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Leslie, I can't close out this talk without this very important thing that you put in your submission form. We have to talk about this. You have a talk that's titled "Invited to the Table, but Only to Clean It," highlighting the paradox of women of color and what you face in leadership. And it just gives me chills. And I have to give space to this to talk about like what women of color and Black women are facing in these leadership roles, and what can allies do differently to help support this.
Yeah. So the talk is actually called Black Women Invited to the Table, but Only to Clean It. And I'm intentional about that because I want people, when they hear it, I want you to think of us as the vision of housekeepers, we're good enough to nurse your baby, but somehow not to like sit at the counter with your baby. It makes no sense, right? And so by the time you bring Black women into leadership, it's Black women do not get invited to leadership and executive spaces very often unless it's a mess by the time you get there. Things have fallen apart, right?
Yeah.
You bring us in to clean up, right? When we clean up, because we over deliver, by the time you're looking at Black women who are invited to executive, senior level, director spaces and above, they are over performers. They are more degree than most people in the room. They're better educated than most because it's the only way we get invited to those spaces, right? But there's a joke among some Black women. It's like getting another degree is called the Black girl vacation. Girl, what you doing now? I'm going to Black girl vacation. Oh, you're getting another degree. You just go to school again, right? So economy bad, girl, go take a Black girl vacation, get yet another degree. So very often by the time Black women in executive spaces, they have more education than many people in the room, right? And so you come in, we over deliver, we overperform because in there, I'm going to be very honest, there is that we understand the spotlight is on us. And so we will overwork ourselves, work ourselves into poor health to make sure that because I'm a Black woman and because I'm leading, I've got to be good. I've got to be outstanding, right? You only invite us in when it's a mess. You invite us in to clean up. When we clean up, when we clean up, then we come under the microscope because you kind of didn't believe we were going to clean. The thing was so bad, in such bad shape by the time you gave us a chance anyway, you kind of surprised. Oh, they actually made it work. Yeah, that's what Black women do, right? Right? Because we gotta make something out of nothing. We've been doing that for a long time, right? Okay, it's a mess. All right, I wish they would bring me in good times. Are they bringing me in bad times? All right, well, I'm used to that. So here we go. I'm going to put my feet to the plow and we're going to overperform and do the Black girl magic thing, right? And then when we fix it up, when no one thought it could be fixed up, or the job was too big and too heavy, and we do it anyway, now we come under a microscope, right? Now you start picking apart personality, appearance, style, tone. Push us out and then replace us so someone can get the credit for the repair that we've done, right? Or that's one scenario. Or we come in and we see a messy, or it's a mess. So I'm going to use metaphors here. It's a mess. And I look and I say, or we as Black women look and say, it's a mess because we lack systems, processes, and procedures. You don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear that from Black women, right? We're going to clean up. We're going to make new systems, new processes. So the table is a mess. Just think of the metaphor as a messy table. Everybody's dying and it's a mess. And you say, oh, Leslie, you're here. Come on. You're part of our team. I'm not really part of your team. You want me to come in and clean up this nasty table. Okay. I'm going to clean the table. And then I'm going to tell you when we eat on plates and forks. And then we use forks. And when we clean up, we take the runner away. This is where the plates get stacked, the dishes, the da 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 da. And you have the audacity to be angry because one said the table was a mess and y'all are nasty. And two, y'all are nasty. Y'all are nasty. Right. And then you resent the working system that I create. Right. Because really didn't want me there in the first place. or only to serve as a maid. So I'm going to take it out of the metaphor now and talk about real, what this looks like in practice. This looks like you're here. Well, you should be happy to be here. We pay you a good amount of money. You should be happy with the title. Don't talk. Don't talk. Don't challenge. How dare you challenge? How dare you talk about the issue? How dare you talk about the solution? You got a nice title. You drive a nice little car. You make a lot of money. I mean, like you're our token. Be quiet. Be
Mm.
happy. You live better than the rest of the people in your community, don't you? At our benevolence, right? And you have the audacity to speak like you really belong here. Yeah, I do. Shouldn't have invited me. Yeah, I do.
LauraAura.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I
Right?
do.
And so how do you deal with it? You sit with the discomfort and the truth of your bias. You learn to sit with it. You think about it. You empathize with, if I were in her shoes, what does that look like and feel like to be her? Right? You advocate. I have an acronym, SEAT. You take a seat. You sit with your discomfort and the truth of your bias. You sit in it. You stew in it until you don't resent it, right? You empathize with the person as though it were you. What must it be like to be the only woman on the executive team? What must it be like to be the Black woman? I hear the whispers. I hear I'm not participating, but what does it feel like to be her? To know that people are actively, intentionally undermining it? What does it look like for people to challenge your credentials? My credentials have been, where did you go to school? Have you ever led before? What, all of that kind of stuff, right? We don't do that to white men. We don't do that, right? So you sit with it, you empathize, you literally put yourself in the shoes and figure out, what does that feel like, right? When you have a chance, you advocate with your influence. What influence do you have, right? What influence do you have to interject on that person? Because I'm fighting the battle by myself all the time, all the time. Allyship is not liking my post on LinkedIn. It's speaking my names in rooms that I'm not in. It's defending me when I'm not present. It's me not having to speak up for myself when I'm in the room, and you knowing that this exists and saying, it's so nice as a Black woman executive when someone says, wait a second, Leslie Jess or Leslie, thank God. I'm looking at that person like, thank you. I'm a strong Black woman. I'm an executive. Thank you so much. It wasn't candy. Thank you. I'll buy you lunch. Thank you. Because I'm tired of doing this every day. I'm
Yeah.
tired of this. This is hard, right?
Yeah.
There's a real allyship ain't free. It's not being my friend. It's literally using the influence and the power that you have from the empathy that you learned, from sitting with your own bias and discuss. And then the final thing, take action. Do something about it. I can't do this by myself. I can be strong, educated, and assertive. But the truth of the matter is, it's beneficial when other people are taking up the load that you see that I'm carrying and that you know is unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're invited. Look at Dr. Bailey, the woman who completed suicide. She was a professor at Lincoln University in Mississippi. The president of the university was the former athletic director. How does he become the president of the university, of an HBCU, no less? She says, listen, this guy is a problem, da 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 da. He does nothing. She completes suicide. Not saying that's his fault, but that's the power dynamic. The Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, Harvard let her take all that heat in Congress by herself, didn't stand by her. First Black female president of the. This stuff is not just about metaphoric tables. Like, this stuff happens to us, right? When we're in leadership. She was the first Black female president of Harvard for less than 2 years because some story gets out that she committed plagiarism. Harvard had already done the research and said, absolutely not. This is fine. But this anti-Semitism, the weaponizing of anti-Semitism, she gets in the hot seat and Harvard leads her out. They do not make an institutional statement backing her, supporting her. She's at Congress by herself in hearings, no university representative. They let her take the heat and then quietly allow her to resign, right?
Wow.
Less than 2 years. It's story. I'm dispossessed of my job as the inaugural DEI officer at a police department because they resented me speaking truth to power and say, you brought me in here. I didn't come here to do Black History Month, Women's History Month, Pride Month. I came in here and looked at your inequitable systems, your inequitable practices, your sexism, your racism. Everything about this place is toxic. Nothing here works as it should. You want me to have cupcakes on Women's History Month and tea and talk about what it's like to be a female officer and have a baby. And that's not what I'm here to do. Oh, y'all wanted an event planner. You didn't want a DEI officer,
Mm.
right? You wanted the cute stuff, not the hard stuff. There's the president of Harvard. There's who had to resign or demote herself. There's a woman who completed suicide. There's me unjustly terminated. And I know 21 women personally who have been pushed out of leadership or have voluntarily resigned or been separated because of their leadership position. And now we are at the place where 350,000 Black women since January 20th of 2025 are unemployed. They have the highest rate of unemployment since this new administration. You bring us in, you resent us, and you push us out. And that's what I mean with Black women invited to the table. You only want us to clean it.
Yeah.
And we're overqualified, overeducated to do the job. But the way you see us is the same way men see women. You only see women in a certain way. You resent, do you see me as more than the help? Do you see me as more than the token? And when I begin to speak as more than the token, there are consequences to that.
Wow. Where do we go from here? I mean, I think that's always the $1,000,000 question of how do we change that system? How do we change those conversations? How do we make
You have them.
have them?
You have them.
Yeah.
You have them. We're not having them. We pretend as if there's no need for the conversations, Laura.
Yeah.
You have them. And then you literally, my acronym is SEAT. Sit with the discomfort, empathize, advocate with the influence and the power that you have, and take action. That's the solution. I can't solve other people's bias to a Black woman's leadership. And by other people, I don't just mean white people. I've led Black men who like, wait a second, people don't like the leadership of Black women. We don't think of Black women as leaders. We think of them as caretakers, as providers, as mammy. It's the corporate equivalent of mammyism.
Yeah.
Right? Right? No. I paid a lot of money for these degrees. I'm gonna act like everybody else with them. It's cost me a lot of money, right? It cost me, I earned my stripes. I earned my stripes. I earned the right to be in leadership. And I'm going to act like every other leader, right? In my way, right? My leadership there's all kinds of different types of leadership personalities, but I'm not going to shrink because you're uncomfortable with me as a Black woman in leadership. But I can commit to the way I show up. I can't commit to the way non-Black women show up. That is on them, right? How do we do it? You got to have the conversations. You have to understand that the conversations are necessary. Who's willing? Now, for the willing, give me a call. I'll come help you out. For the unwilling, I don't know. I got vestiges of Christianity by this upbringing. So, you just Bible say shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving. I don't know what to do with the unwilling.
Yeah.
The people who claim they're willing but don't know, there's a path forward. But it is, make no mistake about it, it is a difficult path. It's a time-consuming path. It is not training and curriculum. It's not that. It's honesty. It's discomfort. It starts at the top.
Starts at the top. Have the conversation. I mean, that's a gutsy move in its own.
Yeah.
is being willing to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Sitting with that. I love your acronym. I think that's such a memorable thing that we can
Yeah.
take away from this today, is to sit in that discomfort and empathize with people, advocate, speak up, and then ultimately take that action. That's the only way that any kind of change happens in any situation.
Yeah.
Incredible. Leslie, you're a freaking powerhouse and a half, my friend. I could spend all day with you and in your energy. I love what you're putting out into the world. I love how you are making such a powerful impact, not just in your own lives, in your own life, but in other people's lives. Where can we find you? What's the best place to connect and learn more about you and the amazing things that you do?
So my name is Leslie Marant, Marant. I'm on LinkedIn. The best way to connect with me is the name of my company is the ESP Effect. ESP, Equity Strategy Performance. ESP Effect. So I'm at www.espeffect.com. And why I am a consultant, my jam, you want to know my jam? You didn't ask me this question.
Tell me.
My jam is public speaking. Literally, to do what we did just now is what I really like is to change the way people think. Yes, I'm a consultant. Yes, I'm a strategist. Yes, you can partner with your organization, but really get me people in the room and have the conversation. I'm a public speaker. That is my jam. Changing the way people think, so that you go back to your organizations and say, you know what? I've been in a lot of places. I've been in a lot of spaces. I've heard a lot of people, but this lady gave me something practical, gave me something she didn't just do some magical inspirational talk. She didn't do sage on the stage thing. She literally, one, made me change the way I think, and two, gave me some practical things that I can think of. So people can reach me at www.espeffect.com, and I'm happy to come in.
Let's do it. Let's get Leslie on more stages, because
Heaven
knows we need it. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And Leslie, what does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Ooh, gutsy is courage. There's just not enough people with courage. Gutsy is courage. And thank you, Laura, for having a podcast and giving gutsy people the platform, because I really think it takes guts to lead.
Gosh, I could spend eternity talking to Leslie. Seriously, like, her energy is so big. She's so grounded in who she is. And I want you to take note of that, because what you just heard through Leslie and her message and what she teaches and guides women and teams to do, that is contagious. That is leadership. That is confidence. That is owning who you are. I'm going to bet that you weren't like, who does she think she is? You were probably like, how do I get more of that? Take this as a little extra sprinkle on top, that confidence and leadership is contagious in the best of ways, that you possess your own version of confidence and clarity, and that someone or many of people in your world are going to be like, how do I get more of that? Because when you take up space and lead with your own version of bold leadership, you give permission to everyone around you to do the same. Share this episode with the women in your network, your coworkers, your leadership team. Give them the gift and the reminder to take up space without shrinking too. My name is LauraAura. You can find me on all the social platforms using @thatLauraAura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.